Teshuvah. Teshuvah. Many of us have been hearing this word every single year for our entire lives. Return, 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 Teshuvah. You know when you think you know what something means, and then all of a sudden you realize what it truly means? This past Shabbos, a few days ago, is known as Shabbat Shuvah, the Shabbos of return, being between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. To honor it, I invited fellow rabbis who are also leading the high holidays for other communities to come stay with me at my cabin in the Redwoods on the coast in Little River, to sit in ceremony together. As leaders of Chochmat Halev in Berkeley and Wilderness Torah in Sebastopol, I sought to offer them a Shabbat Shuvah of rejuvenation, support, revitalization, and insight, for that to further spread to their communities when they returned to them for Yom Kippur. Around the world, this past Shabbos, we all read the words of Parshat Vayelech, when Moshe realizes he cannot enter the promised land. He shares, Lo uchal od latzet velavo. I can no more go and come back. Moshe, like all of us, spent his life going up Har Sinai, Mount Sinai, and coming back. Going deep into spiritual journeys of receiving births, losing deaths, and always coming back. Now, at 120 years old, he knew it was time to go and not come back, not return. There have been a plethora of times in my life that I thought going meant not coming back. I thought taking a break in a relationship indubitably meant breaking up fully. I might have thought a fatal cancer diagnosis meant no more feeling the love from that loved one. Many of us maybe even worried that there would never be a post-COVID, a returning to normal. Here's the thing though. Babies sleep almost all day long, whereas adults, of course, do not. So even from the moment we are born, we are naturally designed to experience going and coming back. While we sleep, our parent, our source of life, goes and then returns to feed us. Even the fact that every single day we experience a colder, darker part of the day and then a warmer, lighter part of the day, we're intended to go into shelter in the dark and cold night and return to nature in day. Even the so common human narrative of struggling with one's parents has so much to teach us. It's so common to feel strongly pulled away from one's parents, to flee the nest. Yet we feel a deep enough ancestral connection that we return again and again. All life seems to be is one return after another. Returning to autumn year after year. Returning to Yom Kippur. Getting caught up in helping others or working hard or any moments of mindlessness. And then returning to moments like this, right now, of returning to ourselves. the gorgeous Torah that we just heard chanted by Sherry, Ace, and Joel, Yasher Koach again, speaks to this exactly. 5 of the verses we heard perfectly, shockingly perfectly, align with an inspiring story of the Hopi Nation, a Native American tribe on now Arizona land. Let's listen to both of them, back to back, to hear how this sentiment transcends race, religion, culture, proving to be an innate human returning. These Hebrew verses, some of the very last of the entire Torah, since we're approaching Simchat Torah, the completion of the Torah, translate as the divine sharing, and I quote, "Surely this instruction which I enjoin upon you this day is not too baffling for you, nor is it beyond reach. It is not in the heavens that you should say, who among us can go up to the heavens and get it for us and impart it to us, that we may observe it. Neither is it beyond the sea, that you should say, who among us can cross to the other side of the sea and get it for us and impart it to us, that we may observe it. No. The thing is very close to you, in your mouth and in your heart, to observe it. See, I set before you this day life and prosperity, death and adversity." So hold on to that. The going up to the heavens, the sky, across the sea. In that now, the profoundly aligned words of the Hopi Nation story. Quote, "Creation said, I want to hide something from the humans until they are ready for it. It is the realization that they create their own reality. The eagle said, give it to me, I will take it to the moon. The Creator said, no, one day they will go there and find it. The salmon said, I will bury it on the bottom of the ocean. The Creator said, no, they will go there too. The buffalo said, I will bury it on the Great Plains. The Creator said, they will cut into the skin of the earth and find it even there. Grandmother, who lives in the breast of Mother Earth and who has no physical eyes but sees with spiritual eyes, said, put it inside of them. And the Creator said, it is done. Both stories emphasize the sentiment of the old Hasidic tale about traveling elsewhere to look for buried treasure, whether that elsewhere is another country, another religion, another realm of focusing more on the mind and working productively and efficiently, but ultimately, always returning to oneself. As the Hebrew says, into one's mouth, into one's heart. Yesterday morning, I woke up to one of my fellow rabbis and dear friends calling up to me from downstairs that a bird laid sprawled out on my deck, dying. I immediately turned to grab some dried tobacco that a friend grew to offer for the bird's life, a spiritual practice I have learned from local indigenous elders. As I started to unscrew the ceremonial jar, I paused. The bird was dying, but not yet dead. I put the jar down and immediately went to see her. At first glance, a face I have not thought of in over 20 years came to mind. When I was 6 years old, in first grade, my first ever Hebrew teacher's name was Mora Tzipora. Mora meaning teacher, and Tzipora, being her personal first name, means bird. How profound, I thought. I first learned Hebrew from this very bird right here, who has come to visit me and die the morning of Kol Nidre, when Yom Kippur is all about rehearsing our death. I noticed that one of her wings seemed smashed, and that might be why she, lo uchal od latzet v'lavo, can no longer go and come back, cannot fly from this porch. I watched her still breathe and blink, and wondered how I could help make her death as easeful and painless as possible. I brought her water and even took a Polaroid photograph of her to capture this gift of death on the morning of Kol Nidre. I also, obviously, even rewrote my entire sermon, which I had months ago already written, a very different one for this moment. As I pondered which redwood grove I would bury her in, and wondered if my original Mora Tzipora still alive on this earth, I looked back at my porch, and all of a sudden, my dying guest was gone. Not dead, but had flown away. She had returned. Today, on Yom Kippur, our fasting and wearing these white burial shrouds are our version of a smashed wing. We are dying. At Ne'ilah, though, the last service of the day, our voices will rise. The gates will swing, and we will be given the blessing of unexpectedly flying again, returning to life. Life is not linear. We have ups and downs, and more ups and more downs. Yet somehow, we always return. There's this online spiritual platform called 10Q that every single year emails you one existential life question on each of the 10 days of the Yamim Noraim, from Rosh Hashanah through Yom Kippur, the days of awe. At the end of the 10 days, 10Q locks all your tshuvot, answers, the other meaning of the word teshuva, answer. So what does it mean that it means both return and answer? It locks all of your tshuvot in an online vault in which you cannot access them for another 355 days. Then the next year, right before Rosh Hashanah, they email you all of your answers, not just from the year before, but from all of the years you have ever done it, as part of your cheshbon hanefesh, taking inventory of the soul for these high holy days. I have been answering these same 10 questions every single year since 2009. So this year, I received 130 of my own personal life reflections. 13 years of 10 questions and answers. One of the questions revolves around your biggest fears for this upcoming Hebrew year. 1 year ago, at the beginning of 5782, I wrote out about half a dozen very specific fears for this past year. And upon reading them this past week, guess what I had discovered? 4 of my biggest fears for the year had indeed come true. They had happened. I sat here in the Redwoods, reading this, thinking this, feeling this. And the most miraculous part of it all was that I was totally fine. Yes, it had been hard, and this has been a year of grief and struggle and tears and shock. And this has been a year of learning and growing and aging and returning. Because even when our biggest fears come true, we will always, eventually, return to being okay. So this weekend, as I sat in ceremony with all dearly beloveds who are also in the midst of the honor and pleasure of shepherding a sacred kahal community through these high holy days, I chanted Gam ze ya'avor, this too shall pass. Gam ze ya'avor, this too shall pass. As the essence of tshuva, returning. How each time either the grief or the joy or whatever it is passes, we return. The root of the word ya'avor, pass, comes up throughout our Yom Kippur liturgy. Rabbi Alan Liu, Zichrono Livracha, taught that throughout Yom Kippur, our liturgy emphasizes that we're praying as avarim, as ones who pass, bringing us full circle to today being a rehearsal for our death. Because like that bird, whether our death is imminent or far off, and Be'ezrat Hashem is far off, we are still always dying. So as the wax of our yahrzeit candle drips like rain, like tears, like tree sap, which if you've ever seen tree sap dripping down the trunk of a tree, as we ponder the giving of forgiving, we continue to journey through this Yom Kippur together. What a portal. Trusting that our inner bird always has another ring to return with. Gamar Khatima Tova.